Tell me about the whistles.
The whistles go woo!
Hey YouTube, welcome back. We preempted this last week's gaming news for a very special announcement. Holy shit, there's aliens. That's right, everybody. This last week has seen the United States government finally come out and tell us that aliens exist. Now, what the hell does this have to do with gaming? Absolutely nothing, but I wanted to sit here and talk about it for a second because it all seems like it's just maybe a little bit oddly timed. In the Cliff's Notes of this whole thing, this last week on Capitol Hill saw a bipartisan, now for those of you who aren't in the United States, bipartisan means both Republicans and Democrats were involved in this, a hearing on Capitol Hill talking to 3 witnesses about information regarding UAPs or UFOs, unidentified flying objects in the UFO case, or unidentified anomalous phenomenon for the UAPs. Now, the reason this is so major is because we're actually seeing something here in the US we don't often see. The 2 sides of our government are working together towards a common end. Are we really going to dive too much into the UFOs? I suppose we could really quick. These 3 gentlemen that testified on Capitol Hill this last week by the names of Ryan Graves, RT Commander David Fravor, I'm unfamiliar with that terminology as I'm not in the military, and David Grush, but all of them were former military and all of them came forth with certain stories about what in the hell was going on with these UFOs. The testimony does actually include things about, how certain people that they knew at one point in time had worked on the UFOs, that the US government actually does have a little green man or some other kind of alien hidden away somewhere, most likely in Roswell, New Mexico, Area 41, whatever that is. And it was unfortunately something that felt a lot like a goddamn distraction tactic, as much as I hate to say this. They went on to continue to talk about how over the last 20, 25, 30, 40 years, there have been many incidences where many pilots, whether they were commercial or military, had actually seen UFOs and wanted to report them, but there's always been a stigma around it and how no one would ever take these people seriously. So this hearing was more about them telling their individual stories about this and whether or not they could talk about certain things. There were a lot of times in the video, if you want to watch it, we'll put the link in the bottom so you can go catch it, that they were denying to really, answer in the public forum because they felt that their lives might be in danger. Now, if you want to get into the conspiracy theory stuff of this, it's all about the CIA and whether they're going to black bag people, black bag meaning yes, them. And they're just too afraid to say anything because all of this information, particularly here in the United States, has always been on the we can't talk about this, otherwise we're either going to be called crazy or we're just going to randomly disappear. So again, why is this such a big deal? It's kind of interesting to see that people are coming forward with some legitimate information. And again, there's a lot out there. If you want to look it up, I would suggest you look it up. If you're really into the alien stuff, get your tinfoil hat on. There's a lot out there. With these gentlemen coming forth and saying this, however, it's a pretty big deal because there were some specific examples, even if they felt they couldn't necessarily talk about it. Talking about things about, people they knew working on the different UFOs or UAPs that they found and how they had been potentially injured or how there were side effects, with things like radiation or other stuff that we just couldn't comprehend or understand at the time. And it just feels, again, unfortunately, like a lot of this is coming at a very, very interesting time in our history as a species. Now, again, I'm not trying to get into complete conspiracy theory stuff here, and I'm going to primarily talk about issues here in the US, but we have all kinds of crazy crap going on here in the US right now. We're talking about over 100-degree water off the coast of Florida. Clearly, that could be a result of things like climate change and other, forces of nature that we might be having an influence on. People getting after corporations and being underpaid. There's a lot of folks out there right now who are feeling the crunch in the economy of the United States, whether it's housing or just basic needs like groceries. The US government has also, over the last week or so, decided to take their student loan forgiveness program. Just go ahead and kind of shelve that one away to make sure that, they're not really on the hook for canceling student loan debt anymore. And what better way than to throw something like this out there? Not to mention that both of these parties, again, have come together to actually tackle this issue where basically political people on both of their sides are currently under fire. Whether you're talking about the current United States administration and them being under fire because of the current sitting president's, kid kind of being a ridiculous bastard and going out and doing a lot of crazy stuff, and for whatever reason people wanting to hold the president to the fire for what his kid's doing. And then of course our previous administration, he's going through the fire right now too for potentially selling, top secret information from the United States to other people. And you would think that both sides have a, a combined interest in kind of deviating the public eye back to something else that they can kind of control and maybe not be held responsible for. Now, again, I know that this is all completely and totally just crazy conspiracy theory talk, but it actually affects everywhere, right? If you really think about it. There's unrest in the Far East when it comes to China and wanting to attack Taiwan. Clearly, the folks who are over in the EU right now are dealing with record temperatures. Canada's on fire. There's all kinds of stuff going on right now that it kind of seems that everyone in this moment in time, all of us together who aren't these huge successful corporations or people at the top with billions of dollars, we're finally coming together and we're finally like, what in the hell are you all doing? What is happening here? You should all be held responsible for all the dumb shit that you're doing. And suddenly, out of the blue, there's aliens and we have a vehicle. And then we have a guy and we have all this information, but none of it has ever been concrete and none of it is really coming to fruition when it comes to legitimate hard evidence. No one has really seen anything. No one really knows what's happening. It's just the word of some people who worked in the US military for a while and they had these different instances pop up. It just all seems really oddly timed. And I felt like I wanted to talk about it because it's just insane. Most of the people I see who are hearing about it are having kind of the same reaction too. They're just like, oh, okay, there's aliens. So how does this affect me? Oh, okay, so there's aliens. So what are we gonna do about X? And it's this really odd thing where people seem to be like they're finally waking up. And I know that this is completely off brand for what I usually put on the show on this, but I think it's absolutely fascinating because even folks in the EU are the same way. They're all like, okay, that's great, there's aliens, but we still have our own issues too. A lot of people that I know in the EU have been baking this summer, or rather, I guess in the UK have been baking because it's been really warm in the UK and they don't normally have air conditioning like we have here in the United States because it's just so abnormal for them. It's the same way in the Scandinavian countries. So I find it so incredibly interesting that people are still finally getting to a point where they're more concerned with what is happening to us as a species, as opposed to, okay, we might not be alone in the universe, but how does that affect me and my quality of life right now? Am I going to have groceries this month? Am I going to be able to pay my bills? Am I still going to have a house over my, or a roof over my head rather? And I know that, again, this is all prefaced with, I'm here to usually talk to you about games and everything else, and I will continue to do that. But when you talk about UFOs and all the other craziness going on in our world right now, I can't help but think that this was all a distraction tactic by the United States government to kind of draw everyone in and be like, oh yeah, all this other stuff. Just don't think about any of those things you just brought up. Because again, we have aliens. Yeah. Giorgio Sakalides, I'm sure you all know, aliens guy, right? He's got to be doing cartwheels right now. The US government has admitted it. His entire life's work has actually come to a point now, and he can hang his hat on and definitely tell everyone, suck it, haters. That's really all I can see coming out of this entire thing. Now, I know that this was completely off brand. I know that this is completely out of the blue, but I'd love to hear what you all have to say about it. What do you think about aliens finally coming to our planet, or at least us admitting that aliens have come to our planet? Do you think there's actually something in possession somewhere? Do you think we actually have bodies hiding out somewhere? Do you think the United States government has worked with other places across the globe to kind of keep everything under the wraps until it might actually benefit them as time has marched on? Whatever the case may be, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you go check out this craziness that's been going on, because again, it feels like absolute insanity, and I'm not really sure where we're gonna go from here, but I do absolutely love the fact that the overwhelming majority of people are looking at them making this announcement and being like, big fucking deal. Where do we go from here? Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Talk to me about it in the comments. Don't like it, give me the thumbs down if you think this is all ridiculous. But I would love to hear what everyone has to say. And we will hopefully be back next week with a little bit more gaming news. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you soon. See you on the next one.